Hey, how's it going? This is Melinda and welcome to my channel. So today I want to show you records that even though I've made purges, as you can see in the background, I'm moving. I am going to be leaving Kentucky, going to Florida. I've been packing up records. That's why my shelves are bare. I've also looked at a lot of the records along the way, and yet even though I've done some purges, there are records in my collection that even though I don't play them very often, manage to make the cut and that I just can't get rid of. And there's a lot of sentimental value in a lot of these records. So I want to talk to you about that, show you those records. I would love to hear your stories of records that are in your collection that even though you may not play that particular album all the time, it's an album you'll never get rid of, and I love hearing stories like that. So I thought I would share a few of mine, and I would love to hear stories from you. So let's go ahead and get started with the first one. This is a band you all know very well, Culture Club. These are a couple of the records that, honestly, I don't listen to Culture Club. I don't really put their records on. But I actually really loved some of the songs when I was growing up. And I'm just going to say, for this album, this is Color by Numbers. Karma Chameleon was a huge hit. It's a Miracle. Church of the Poisoned Mind was huge from this album. And I still like those songs. I don't turn the channel when I hear them or anything like that. I just don't grab that record. This one, if you look at the cover, for one, it has a Kmart price sticker. That is the store that my mom would go to. I remember, when you're a kid and it's summer, it's great when mom wants to go somewhere, even if it's just Kmart. She would go to Kmart. I honestly couldn't tell you what she bought there, but I know I would immediately go to the music center and look through the records. So it's kind of cool to have something like that with a cool hype sticker. I also still adore the song, Do You Really Want to Hurt Me? I remember seeing Culture Club on Solid Gold, if you remember that TV show, where it was quite apparent. It's like, okay, they lip sync on that. They're not really singing. And it was just a very interesting visual. And it was a great song, and I've always really loved it. And their song, Time Clock of the Heart, brings back wonderful memories of, there was a summer growing up, I'm assuming it's around the 1982 era, but I stayed at my cousin's house for a whole summer. My mom was working all the time, 2 jobs, and I was just at home. I couldn't drive. I had nowhere to go or nothing to do. So she graciously let me stay at my cousin's house because they were a block away from a swimming pool. There was more to do. There were kids to play with, that kind of thing. And my cousin Lisa, who was older than me, I can remember she had a boyfriend and she would get ready for dates and it would take her 2 hours. Their song, her and this boyfriend's song, was Time Clock of the Heart. And I can remember for 2 hours her playing that one song over and over and over again. She had it on cassette. She'd play it. The song would play. She'd reverse it, play it again. I mean, just for 2 hours straight. So those Culture Club records, yeah, I don't grab them very often, but they're a lot of fun to think about. And maybe I will put them in maybe I'll play them more often sometime soon, But in the meantime, I also want to show this record because it's so special to my family. The Proclaimers, Sunshine on, I'm not even sure how to pronounce this, Lythe? I don't know. I just know that the song, I'm Gonna Be 500 Miles, that is a family song. That is something my daughter and her husband loves. And Philip and I, anytime we're on a family vacation, we're in the car going somewhere, we put that song on and sing the lyrics that we know and can tell what they are. And usually it's just that da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. But it's just a fun family song that we love to play. And I missed this when it was up for record store day. I went to a record store and I had the albums I wanted to get kind of in my head. I didn't write it down. And for some reason, on record store day a couple of years ago, I forgot to pick this one up. And I was just kicking myself because I knew it was something I would want to have. But thankfully, a few months later, I went to a record fair and it was there. So I bought it. And I can't say I pull out this record a lot, although I have played it for my daughter. And it's on this beautiful vinyl, you know, beautiful teal color vinyl, 2 LPs. She gets a kick out of hearing it on vinyl, but we just love listening to it. And I know someday, even though I'm going to be gone, that album is going to be in her collection. And my hope is that when she sees this record in her collection, many years after my husband and I are gone, I hope that, yeah, we were strict. We kept her off the 3 Ps. You know, we avoided pregnancy, prison, the pole. But I hope she remembers we were also a lot of fun and goofy too. I hope that the Proclaimers album will remind her that we were goofy and how much fun we had as a family. Now, this next record I'm going to show is one where it's such a funny memory for me. I was not that close with my dad. I won't get into the story, but if you've watched my channel long enough, you know that. My dad died 4 years ago, I'd say 6 years ago or so. I told him I was into vinyl records and was talking to him. I even showed him one of my videos, which I'm glad he got to see one of my videos. I can remember him calling me one day saying, Melinda, I was at an antique store and I found this amazing vinyl record and I had to buy it for you. So I'm going to bring it over right now. And he was so excited about it. So I kept thinking, oh my gosh, what did he find? I was super excited. What kind of crazy, great record did my dad find and think, Melinda has to have this? This was it. The Best of Liberace. Yes, my dad bought that record for me. And yeah, I like piano music, but this isn't exactly what I had in mind as a vinyl collector. But he's not a vinyl collector. He just saw this, thought I'd like it, and he bought it for me. And even though he's gone, and I inherited a lot of my grandma's things, we did get an inheritance and things like that, I started thinking about it. And it's like, I think this is the only thing that I know he went and bought for me. He saw it out somewhere, thought of me, and picked it up. So I can't get rid of this record. This is something that my dad saw and thought of me. So I can't get rid of this record, even though it's probably not something everybody thinks, oh, what a great find. But, and, you know, you can find these records anywhere, but to me, that's just a special memory, just to know my dad saw this somewhere, got so excited about it, and picked it up for me. So I'll never get rid of that record. And this is another one that is, if I'm being honest, kind of faked being a fan of this band. It was just the cool thing to do back in middle school. It's Alabama. This is the album Mountain Music, and I love it now. But back then, I wasn't as big a fan. You know, when Love in the First Degree came out, you know, all of the cool kids in my class was all into it. They went to the Alabama concerts, and I kind of just pretended. I was into Willie Nelson, but other than that, I don't really know of any major country artists of the time in the early 80s that I was that crazy about. But I will say, when it came to the song Mountain Music, there was something that when that song came on in my middle school at the dances, everybody would automatically go on the gym floor, except the punks. The punk people did not do that. But there was some kind of dance where we did this thing, oh, play me some mountain music, and we kind of did this weird dance. It kind of brought everybody together, and I thought that was really cool. There's also a song on here called Close Enough to Perfect. I highly recommend you listen to it. It's very sweet lyrics. And I can remember hearing this album being played at a party I went to back in middle school where it was a hayride, and then we came back to the girls' house and we all danced. The song Close Enough to Perfect was played several times that night. And at that time, I had a crush on a boy that when a slow song came on, he would ask me to dance, and I would always dance with him. And I thought, well, he must like me. He keeps asking me to dance. But yet he never asked me to be his girlfriend or anything. Once the song was over, he was done. It wasn't like he ever was talking to me or anything. So I still have fun memories of thinking about that. And it's weird because once we graduated, I can honestly tell you, I have never heard anything about him. I don't know whatever became of this boy that I thought I had to have as my boyfriend back in 1982. But also, the song Take Me Down was a huge hit. And I still have great memories of hearing that. on the radio and on the Dick Clark National Music Survey on Sunday nights in the summer. It's just a great memory to have Alabama album. Don't play it that often, but I do love it. Here is another one you guys can maybe relate to. Greatest Hits by Journey. The reason why I don't play this that often is because I could probably, if I just sat there, play it in my head. I know every single song by heart. I'm probably more apt to grab the Greatest Hits 2 that has songs like Stone in Love and After the Fall on it. More of the deep cuts. But, you know, this is a classic. I can't get rid of it. But yet it's just something I don't gravitate towards because I know every song so well. I will say, though, out of all the Journey songs, I still think Who's Crying Now is my favorite. Even though we all hear that a million times, I still love that song. Now, I'm wearing the t-shirt today to honor my favorite movie from the teenage years. This is the soundtrack to 16 Candles, and it is a terrible soundtrack. If you watch the movie, and I watched it over and over again, my favorite from my middle school years, I can totally relate to the Molly Ringwald character of being so insecure and so unsure, you know. The way she portrayed herself, she had this crush on this boy, and I love the scene where she's talking about, she confides in her best friend who she has this crush on, and her friend's like, what? He doesn't even know you exist. I can so relate to that. But it's just a great movie, and there's so many great songs in it, like Happy Birthday from Altered Images, and Rebel Yell by Billy Idol, Young Americans by David Bowie, Turning Japanese by the Vapors. I mean, it's just an incredible soundtrack, and yet it's so weak. There's just not very many. Yeah, the song If You Were Here by the Thompson Twins is on here, but otherwise it's pretty dull. But it's a hard soundtrack to get. It is a favorite movie of mine, and I will make a deal. If a better soundtrack comes along on vinyl with all of those songs that I just mentioned, I'll let this one go and I will buy the updated version. So this next one is Eddie Money, The Covers. I rarely play this record, and if I'm being really honest, it's not that great. It has some, it almost sounds like karaoke versions of songs. The music of it is bad, but Eddie Money has this amazing voice that is so iconic and rings true for me. He sings songs like Drops of Jupiter, She Came In Through the Bathroom Window by the Beatles, which is really cool. Reach Out, I'll Be There, Give Me Some Lovin', Ticket to Ride Again, When I Come Around. I mean, it's just a very odd mix of songs. And like I said, the music, the instruments, everything's pretty weak. But Eddie Money represents such a special time, and his vocal is so iconic. I love the song Shaken. Baby Hold On is a huge song that brings me back to my childhood. I love Eddie Money. I love his blue collar roots. There's just something about not just his singing, but his personality, who he was. And so I love him, and I will never give that record up, even though I honestly don't play it that often. Now, this is one that touches me too. It's an 8-track my mom had. I have it on vinyl now. In my 8-track, I remember this visual. That is the thing that really drew me to this when I saw it. I remembered the visual. The 8-track had like an air bubble. I don't know why so many 8-tracks, they always had that air bubble. I think because they sat in a hot car. That's probably what caused it. But my mom's 8-track had an air bubble for this, but it was just one of those 8-tracks she put on that when I hear it, any of these songs reminds me of family, being in the car with mom and us going fun places, like Crazy Love by Poco. I've always been so crazy about that song because it just reminds me of this 8-track and being with my mom and all the fun. Biggest Part of Me by Ambrosia. I love that. It reminds me of the summers of my childhood. Love You More Than I Can Say by Leo Sayer. I love the song The Winner Takes It All by ABBA, and I love the vocal. It's so absolutely gorgeous. It's such a sad song. There's also a version of Crying by Don McClean on here, and yes, I understand Roy Orbison did it best, but I do love the Don McClean song. And even though when I listened to that song, I was a child, I'd never had my heart broken, I hadn't even really had a strong interest in boys, that song, it really, I almost could feel what a heartbreak of a breakup or a relationship was like. And maybe it was because I went through my parents' divorce, but I really feel like that song and the message and the way it was sung is so heartbreaking that even if you've never been through it, you can feel it. And that's what's so great about music. Here is another one, and I won't get into a lot about this other than Mantovani, and I know that's really crazy. I don't put this on, and I know you can find Mantovani records anywhere and everywhere. They're easy to find. But, oh, and I should have mentioned, this is a K-Tel record. This was a K-Tel compilation. Anyway, Mantovani. The reason why I can't get rid of this record, it was something my mom had in her collection, but she got rid of, so this is not that same exact copy. This is the only memory I have of my parents being married. We first moved into a house in Indiana, Richland, Indiana, and it had a fireplace. And I have memories of sitting around the fireplace listening to this album with my parents when they were still together. They divorced when I was 4, so those are fleeting memories. And I don't have a lot of memories of them together at all. But I do remember this. And the song Little Green Apples, for some reason, sticks out to me as one I remember and being my favorite as a little bitty girl. So those are some of the albums that I have in my collection. I don't play them that often, but yet they mean the world to me, and I will never let them go. Before I leave, I want to show and give a special thank you to Mike from Mike's Got the Spins. He sent these beautiful records my way from Kacey Musgraves. They're both absolutely gorgeous records. I really love them. I think there were a couple of things that I knew about Kacey Musgraves. For one, a couple of years ago when I went to see the Zombies in concert in Nashville. The day after the show, I went to the Country Music Hall of Fame, and they were having a Kacey Musgraves exhibit. The fan, this iconic fan, and even if you don't know who she is, you've probably seen this record at record stores because it's so iconic, sold a gazillion copies. This fan was on display in her exhibit, which I thought was really cool. It's like, okay, this iconic fan, I'm seeing it in person. I thought that was really great. And my introduction to Kacey Musgraves is a scene in the Elvis movie from a couple of years ago. She sings Can't Help Falling in Love. It's an absolutely heartbreaking scene in the movie. She sang it so beautifully, and I can remember thinking, who's singing this? This is such a heartbreaking rendition. Of course, Elvis sings it best, but wow, she nailed it. It was just really great. So I'm going to leave a link to the video of that song by Kacey Musgraves. And I'm also going to leave a link to Mike from Mike's Got the Spins. Thank you so much for sending these records of Kacey Musgraves to me. It's good to know new music and listen to new music because I'm really bad about that, you guys. That is something I'm very weak at. And that is my video today. Please let me know, what are the records in your collection that you may not listen to all the time, but you could never let go? I would really love to hear that. And if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, hit the like button and the notification bell. But most of all, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.